Okay. Where are you? You need help? I'm coming. One above me. Oh. It's a MiG. Watch out. Turn. Oh, good grief. There we go. I got him. I got him. What the? Hey, wait a minute. That's not right. What happened here? Good hits. Tail comes off. What happened? No. No way. Oh, War Thunder. Really? That's not... That's not right. There's no way him being angled like that can take off my wing. Come on. That's why we need new servers. Either that or just feed the server hamsters. Good grief. Howdy folks, Sabre here. Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I am going to be taking out the MiG-17 against rank 6 jets. Now, at the time I was going to make this video, I was trying to decide should I use the MiG-17, which at the time I was trying to get back in the swing of using, or the CL-13. But then I decided, you know, because the CL-13 is a German aircraft and Germany does not yet have rank 6 jets at the time of the making of this video, I decided to take out the MiG-17 because I wanted to grind out the MiG-19, and I figured the MiG-37, oh my goodness, the MiG-17 would be a good candidate for the job. And an interesting thing to note about the MiG-17 is, unlike most other jets, which generally you do not want to have the new boosters modification ticked, you want to disable it so that it reduces the possibility of you ripping your wings. Namely, this is the case on the Sabre family, the F-86 Sabre, CL-13 Sabre, and the G91, and a handful of other jets. But you don't need to do that with the 17, because it has very strong wings, which allows you to pull up to 12 Gs, or sometimes even up to 14 Gs before you rip your wings. So much more than the Sabre can. And as you saw earlier, I have my MiG-19, but I will save that for a future video. For now, let's get into it with the MiG-17. Now I will start off by saying, no, I did not get 10.0 matchmaking on my very first battle. As you can see here, there's an LA-200 on my team, so that means I actually got down tiered. But from the second and third battle in this video, I do encounter rank 6 jets, namely the F-100 and the Javelin. Now, as of late, now that most people have rank 6 jets, for those that are still playing rank 5 jets, be it to get rank 6 jets or because they want to play the rank 5 jets, namely 9.0 jets, some might wonder, how am I able to counter these rank 6 jets? And I'll explain how you can. Obviously, like any plan, it's not foolproof, but it'll at least help you out when you encounter these jets. Oh, and to deviate a little, you gotta see how bad the spotting mechanic is. I just got my meteor, and I'm having fun. Huh? No! Yep. That happens. Yeah, that is super annoying there. Like, you can look behind you, and you can have a direct line of sight on the enemy jet, but yet he still doesn't show up on radar until he's about 1 kilometer away, or even closer. Now, I know it's supposed to be realistic, in which the pilot, look, he scans the environment around him, and sometimes it takes time until the last moment before he spots the enemy on his 6. But shouldn't your teammates be able to tell you, hey, there's an enemy behind you, run away, or something like that? I mean, that would be kind of a way of you being able to spot him sooner, but I don't know why that's the case. Because it happens, especially with jets. It happens with props too, but most notably with jets. Like, I've certainly experienced it from both sides of the matter. Like, as you saw there, I snuck up on that meteor. I've had other jets sneak up on me and such. So it could be quite an interesting situation to get yourself into. And when I say interesting, I mean not good. Because, like, I've experienced it. Fly has especially highlighted it. If you saw his Friday stream on February the 1st, yeah, that happened to him quite a bit. Oh yeah, it feels bad, man. But anyway, enough on that. We'll get on to the MiG-17 and talk a little bit about its historical background. So, as you know, the MiG-17 is a further development of the earlier MiG-15 jet fighter that saw extensive action during the Korean War on the North Korean side, supplied by the Soviet Union, and first flew in 1949. And the MiG-15 was an excellent fighter, especially in War Thunder, when you fly it right. And then in 1953, they started the development, or let me rephrase that, they unraveled the MiG-17, which was a further development on the MiG-15, namely the longer fuselage, the wings had a further sweep, or yeah, they were more swept, and it had a more powerful engine. And it's nice and considerably faster than the MiG-15. It can go almost 700 miles per hour, whereas the MiG-15 can only go about 640 to 650 miles per hour in a straight line. And the armament remained the same from the MiG-15. The two 23mm cannons and one 37mm cannon. Now bear in mind, because while the guns are in the nose, just as in the Sabre, they are at the bottom of the nose, rather than on the sides. So you have to consider that when you're leading your target. And you especially need patience when firing these cannons, because you only get about 5, maybe 6 seconds of continuous fire before your guns run out of ammo. So this plane is definitely useful for sniping, and it requires patience when you're engaging your target. That's mainly what appealed to me when I started getting back into the MiG-17. When I first started playing, I was like, I can't hit anything! I keep running out of ammo! But that was because I was used to playing it like you would an F-86 Sabre, where you have lots of ammo, and you fire your guns from the side of the nose. But once I got the hang of the 17, I had a lot of fun with it. And in this particular battle, I ended up getting a total of 4 aircraft destroyed. So that was especially nice. So now for the topic of how can you counter some of the rank 6 jets. Well, let's start off with, and when I say the rank 6 jets, I also include the MiG-19 and the F-100 as a whole, because lately, I don't know if you may have noticed this, but if you play rank 6, chances are you're going to get mixed battles a lot. Some people like it, some people do not like it, and then of course there are some that just don't know what to think about it. Now for me personally, now you can think what you like. If you like it or if you don't like it, that's okay. As for me, I don't mind it as long as the aircraft between the nations are equally balanced to the best possible way of the matchmaker. And the reason being is that the MiG-19 and the F-100 are two completely different, or let me rephrase that, those two jet fighters have two completely different play styles. The MiG-19, like you would with any jet, is a boom and zoomer, unlike the 15 and 17, which can actually turn really good. As you can see here, I'm dogfighting with this F-80C-10 here. Now this dogfight here lasted a pretty good time, and I ended up getting him in the end, but he made it nice and difficult for me to get him. I really enjoy dogfights like that where it requires skill in the dogfight to avoid overshooting or, as I've done in the past, eat the dirt. But nonetheless, the MiG-19, it is one of the best climbing jets that I've ever flown, and personally my favorite for that type of playing style. Because you can just take off, accelerate to 500 miles per hour, and you can either zoom climb or do a stable climb, and you can get up to 15,000 feet in less than 3 minutes. It's incredible how fast it climbs to altitude. But there's a drawback. And some of you may have pointed this out too, and I especially noticed this the very moment I started flying the MiG-19. As you get up to high speed, when you try to turn, that rudder is not going to do you good. It's like almost unresponsive at such high speed. So it's like, yeah, this plane has no rudder. It's for display only. I got that part, the rudder for display only, from a War Thunder skin that I saw on Live War Thunder the other day. It was the generic MiG-19 skin, but it had a big red text on the tail that said, rudder for display only. I thought that was so hilarious. But nonetheless, the MiG-19 doesn't really do well in a turn fight. Now, if it's a stable turn, like left and right, but if you're like needing to use your ailerons a lot, you're not gonna turn real well in an aileron fight, if you want to call it that. But the F-100, now, I kind of have mixed feelings about the F-100 because I feel like it should be a little faster in terms of acceleration, not so much as in top speed. Or, I'm sorry, yeah, that was right. I get the two confused. But on the other hand, it is an excellent fighter, and I especially like the fact that it has twice the amount of missiles as the MiG-19 does. It turns with excellency, turns almost well as the original F-86 Sabre, and when I say turns well, I mean like in horizontal, not so much as in like aileron roll, if you want to call it that. It's not as stable, of course, and you lose a lot of speed, but it does turn pretty well, but at the cost of losing a ton of speed, whereas if you did the same, well, when I say the same maneuvers, I mean to the best of your ability in the MiG-19, you can gain your speed back pretty quickly. But on the other hand, if you catch the MiG-19 at a low speed, the F-100 can do pretty decent in intercepting the 19, because it has good acceleration from low speed to not top speed, but to high speed, but getting up to top speed again is going to take you some time. And you can also use that time to either fire off your cannons or get your, I almost said your ATGMs, your air-to-air missiles off. But at any rate, both jet fighters share the same weakness. They don't really do well at low speed. They have decent acceleration, but if you're in a transonic jet like the F-86 Sabre or the MiG-19, you can do well to get the jump on them and outmaneuver them if they are at low speeds. That's why, generally speaking, MiG-19 and F-100 pilots tend to side climb or zoom climb to altitude and use that altitude to dive down and get their attacks on enemy fighters. But if you can catch them in the right moment, they are yours for the taking. Anyway, going back to it, in regards to the mixed battles part, where it's like United States and Russia versus United States and Russia, for the time being, in a way, that mixed battle style can be a good thing, because, at least for the time being, until they can add more of a variety of rank 6 jets to those nations, as well as the other nations in-game. And in particular, the F-100 and the MiG-19, because they have such different play styles, the mixed battles not only helps, reduce the queue times, but also enables a more of a variety play style. Because, as good as both jets are, if you just put one jet against the other on two separate teams, it's going to be a difficult balancing act. There's going to be quite a meta to where one side or the other is going to have lots and lots of victories, and the other lots and lots of defeats. And that's the case for many nations at different BRs. Like, for example, it wasn't all that long ago that if you played like 6.7 to 7.7 jets, chances are the Allies were going to have the better meta because of the variety of jets you could play. And then once you got up to higher BR, namely 9.0 and 8.0, then it would go into the Axis, because this is back when the CL-13 and the MiG-17 as a team reigned supreme. And even afterwards, when you started seeing less of Russia being queued with Germany at 9.0 battles, the CL-13s were still getting the drop on a lot of players until, and this happens eventually, players started learning how to counter the CL-13 through various tasks. And whilst CL-13 teams still had a good meta, occasionally you could find teams where they could counter the CL-13 with impressive efficiency. So metas do change. And until this current meta changes, for now, I think mixed battles for 10.0 jets, or excuse me, rank 6 jets, is a decent solution to keep it as balanced as reasonably possible. Now, as always, it's not perfect, but at least you can get the most out of it, you know, when it works right. You get the idea. Anyway, moving on. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the maps that we have for air forces in War Thunder. Now, what was I going to say? Oh yes, for tanks, like aircraft, you have quite a bit of a variety, but you also have an assortment of, now not as much as the historical maps, but you have a few fictional maps. The most prominent one that comes to mind is American Desert, which, in my honest opinion, is starting to become one of my favorite maps for tank battles. Now, the only other tank map I can think of that's fictional is Ash River, which, if I recall correctly, is based off of the Irish Coast Air Battles map. Now, if there are any other, I guess you could say, fantasy tank maps, and when I say fantasy, I mean ones that, like for example, American Desert or Ash River. Let me know in the comments below if you know of any other ones. But I'll never forget it when War Thunder said on a Thunder Show episode, when someone asked if they could get some more alternate history maps for tanks, like the Battle of London or Battle of the Berlin Wall, something like that, and they said, we want to be as historically accurate as possible, and we do not want to implement fictional fantasy maps. Somewhere around those lines. And a bunch of people were all like, War Thunder, we have the Fulda Gap and other alternate history maps, and alternate history Kryminsk, Spain, Berlin, and much more. But that especially recently came to light, at least for me, when someone asked this question about naval maps. Let me see if I could find it real quick. Ah yes, here it is. Question. For some reason, all of the maps, well, that's not exactly true. Not all the maps, like Korea and Spain have some mountainous areas. It says, they are as flat as pancakes, while in arcade mode, there are maps with hills and canyons. Do you have any plans to introduce multi-level maps with hills and canyons in Aviation RB? And this was their answer. This is one of the main distinctions between Aviation Arcade and RB. We use maps of real theaters of war in RB, but for arcade, we use all sorts of highly varied landscapes, including some that are invented. So, in other words, like, one of my favorite fictional air battles map, which was especially commonplace when I used to play arcade a lot back in the early days of War Thunder, were Hidden Pacific Base, and I forget what the other one was called. But one of those two maps were from the early days of War Thunder. Like, Fly's very first video was with was with the P-26 pea shooter in arcade, and it wasn't Pacific Hidden Base. I think it was kind of like a volcano map, but with a bunch of scattered islands in the middle. It looked like an extinct volcano, almost. But man, that map was so cool. Now, my question is, did they mean to say that they wanted to include some more realistic maps, but they do not have, you know, ones with such varied terrain ready at this time? I don't know. Because, like I said earlier, the Korean War map and alternate history Spain map have some pretty high hills. They're not necessarily mountains, but they are really tall. Now, some maps that they could add with lots of varied terrain, mountains for example, could be maps like the Alps, for example. Sorry, that was the only one that could come to mind. Or maybe even they could even add one like an upscaled version of the Japan tank map where you can fly around Mount Fuji, something like that. But all in all, I am definitely more than welcome, definitely would welcome some more varied air maps for Aircraft and War Thunder, because come on, you can never have too many maps. As long as they're balanced and don't end after 12 minutes if you don't destroy the enemy team. I'm talking about you, Afghanistan. Good grief. Now, at the time of making this video, I do not know if that has been fixed or not, because I haven't gotten the Afghanistan map as of late, but hopefully by the time you're watching this video, it will be fixed, or at least they're working on getting it fixed. But all in all, I can't help but wonder if there's such a major bug. Now, I understand the developers can be really busy, but it would seem like it'd be such a simple fix to simply make it to where the game does not, or the match does not end if the ground units capture a base so early in the game. So like, for example, maybe 20 or 30 minutes into a match rather than 10 or 13, I forget the exact number. But, understandably so, if it is difficult to balance, why not just take that map out of the rotation until it's fixed? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. But all in all, in terms of scenery, I love the Afghanistan map because I can think of epic modern jet battles taking place along a desert, a vast desert. I just think that's really cool. That's why I like the Afghanistan map. I like the Tunisia map. I like the El Alamein map that you see here. I don't know why. I think desert maps are really cool for jets. But yeah. But anyway, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are enjoying the video so far. And by the way, as a bit of an update, I have started a new work schedule, so that is taking up more of my time. And although I would like to try to continue to do a video once a week, if worse comes to worse, I'd be happy if I can just do one every other week. But nonetheless, the next video will either be about the MiG-17 or helicopter enduring confrontation. So stay tuned for that. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Stay safe. Peace out.